I am not sorry for something I didn't do, and I am not sorry for the things I did do.
Mr. Oneal,
All right.
Listen, stop.
All right.
Listen to me.
I'm not
You're not going to raise your voice again.
I'm not going to raise my voice again. I'm not.
I will have you removed from this courtroom. I can sentence you without you being present.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't conduct
I
yourself.
understand, Your Honor.
Thank you.
But I will say, I'm sorry for your loss.
19 years I've been at this job. I've seen human beings killed at the hands of others in every way imaginable. You name it, I've seen it. Shootings, stabbings, drownings, suffocatings, blown apart by cars in DUI manslaughter cases. Horrible things. This is the worst case I have ever seen as far as the facts go. When the person from fire department, when he testified, and when he said that he retrieved the body of Ronnie Oneal from the home, and all he could do was sob. It took every ounce I had not to start sobbing too. Because there is no way any person with any feeling could have witnessed or seen the photos of what occurred that night and not be haunted for the rest of your life. I know I will be. For the rest of my life, I'll be haunted by what I saw as far as the evidence and just the abject cruelty of it all. The abject cruelty. And I was aware, because I reviewed a lot of the discovery ahead of time, as you well know, did a lot of in-camera inspection of a lot of documents. And I was aware there was some evidence, at least, that when you needed to recover from your gunshot wound, that neither your parents nor your Aisha, Miss Robinson, would let you come recover at their home. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm not going to get into a dispute. I'm just mentioning there was some evidence referencing that in the records. And all I can think about, because I knew that Miss Barron was not with you romantically at the time. And I knew that she just out of the goodness of her heart let you come stay with her. And it is beyond tragic that that critical decision ended in so much horror for her and for her children. It is unspeakably cruel what happened as a result of that one decision.
July 23, 2021, the Hillsborough County Courthouse in Florida. The air inside Courtroom 1 was thick, not just with the humidity of a Florida summer, but with a palpable sense of historical exhaustion. For 19 years, Judge Michelle Cisco had presided over the bench, witnessing the absolute debris of human morality. But as she looked at the man sitting before her, Ronnie Oneal III, her voice didn't just carry the weight of the law, it carried a chilling, weary finality. The gavel came down. It wasn't a quick tap. It was a strike that seemed to vibrate through the floorboards and into the very souls of those present. 3 consecutive life sentences, no possibility of parole, plus 90 years. It was a sentence that defied the biological limits of a human life. It was a mathematical infinity. For Ronnie Oneal, the sound of that gavel was the sound of the world's door locking from the outside. The finality of that moment didn't just mark the end of a trial that had gripped and horrified a nation, it marked the beginning of a living death. Let that sink in. For a man who spent the duration of his trial shouting, pacing, and attempting to dominate every person in that room, the transition to being a silent, numbered object is a psychic break most people cannot comprehend. Many in the public called for the death penalty, and in many ways, death would have been easier. In an execution, the lights go out. The struggle ends. The sensory world is extinguished in a flash of electricity or a chemical sleep. But for Oneal, the reality is a slow, methodical erasure of the self. It is a descent into a nightmare where his past life is a ghost and his future is a void made of concrete and steel. This is not just a prison sentence. It is a 24-hour-a-day, 365-day-a-year confrontation with the void. Stay with me, because this specific reality, the reality of a man who tried to burn his legacy to the ground only to be buried alive in its ashes, is far more brutal than the headlines suggest. I want to welcome you back to the channel, Cold Trail Crimes. We investigate the cases the world tried to forget, looking for the truth in the spaces between the headlines. If you find value in these deep dives, please subscribe and join our community of investigators. And as we begin, tell us where you are watching from today, whether it's the United States, Canada, Australia, or beyond. Leave a comment below. We read every single one. To truly understand the nightmare, we have to go back to the catalyst. March 18th, 2018. A night that began in Riverview, Florida, not with a bang, but with a 911 call that sounded like the end of the world. The timeline is a clinical, high-intensity study in escalating chaos. 11:43 p.m. Kenyatta Barron makes the call. If you listen to that audio, you don't just hear words. You hear the chills of a woman realizing her protector has become her predator. She's screaming, "I'm shot! Help me, please!" In the background, the man she once loved is heard shouting, "Allahu Akbar." This wasn't just a crime. It was an execution of a domestic sanctuary. 11:51 p.m. Oneal calls 911 himself, his voice a distorted rasp of religious fervor and paranoia, claiming he's being attacked by white demons. But while he's emptying magazines of lies into the ears of the dispatchers, he is doing the unthinkable. He turns a hatchet on his 9-year-old daughter, Ronnie Oneal. She was a child with autism and cerebral palsy. She couldn't run. She couldn't scream for help. He killed her in the same hallway where he then stabbed his 8-year-old son, Ronnie IV, and set the boy on fire. The sensory details of that night are nauseating. The smell of accelerant, the sound of the hatchet hitting wood and bone, and the orange glow of a house being turned into a crematorium for a family. But here is the part most people don't understand. What were the missed red flags? Looking back at the forensic evidence, the timeline is littered with warning signs that were ignored. There were years of simmering religious extremism, a cocktail of paranoia, and a warrior complex that was nurtured by a lack of mental health intervention. He had been shot in a drive-by a year earlier, a trauma that left him vibrating with a hair-trigger temper and a distorted view of reality. The system didn't just fail Kenyatta, it failed to see a man who was clearly spiraling into a violent delusion. Analyze the offender's psychology for a moment. During his trial, he represented himself, pacing and screaming at the jury with a terrifying, unblinking intensity, shouting, "I am not sorry." Is he fundamentally incapable of change, or a victim of a mind that had been fractured beyond repair? For Oneal, the world was a battlefield, and his family were simply the casualties of a war only he could see. He possessed a narcissistic grandiosity that allowed him to cross-examine his own surviving son in front of a live television audience.
I just saw my dad holding a shotgun and my mom screaming at him.
And your father had a shotgun. What happened next? What did he do?
My mom ran in my sister's room. My mom ran in my sister's room into the closet. And then my dad said he couldn't hear and couldn't kill the B-word.
Did you hear any shots from the shotgun before that?
Yes.
How many times?
One.
Was there a time when your mother was able to get out of the closet?
She was like stumbling outside, and then I just saw my dad chase her.
What do you remember happening next?
My dad told me to walk around and say like some words.
And do you remember what words your father told you to say?
Allah Akbar.
Allahu Akbar?
Yes.
Did he do something to your sister?
Yes, he hit her with an axe. And then he went in the garage, I followed him. He put me on the ground, and then he had his foot on top. I was laying on my stomach, he had his foot on top of me, and he was holding me down. And he was lighting a match.
Mr. Oneal, any questions?
How you doing, Ron?
Good.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
Did you see me shoot your mom?
No.
Did I hurt you that night of this incident?
Yes.
I did. And how did I hurt you?
You stabbed me.
A psychological assault that mirrored the physical one he committed years prior. Now consider the milestone erasure. As we sit here in February 2026, the calendar pages are turning for the rest of the world. But for Ronnie Oneal, they are blank. Think about the specific human experiences that have been deleted from his timeline. There will be no more pro-se legal theatrics in the spotlight. No quiet mornings. No family weddings. The very concept of family is a wound he inflicted on himself and then salted with fire. The simple freedom of walking outside without handcuffs is now a luxury of a past life. In 20 years, Ronnie Oneal will be in his 50s. His physical decay will be monitored by a cold and unblinking camera lens. In his mind, he may still believe he is a king or a martyr, but in reality, he is a man whose name will only ever be linked to the murder of a disabled child. His son, Ronnie IV, has been adopted by the very detective who saved his life that night, Mike Blair. He has a new name. He has a new life. He has milestones that his father will never be permitted to see. Every time Ronnie IV graduates a grade, hits a home run, or falls in love, it is a milestone that has been erased from the father's world. The father remains frozen in the darkness of that burning house, while the son has walked into the light. The psychological weight of knowing that the world you tried to destroy moved on without you and is actually better for it is a specific kind of torture that no execution could replicate. Home, if you've stayed with me this far, you aren't just a casual viewer. You're an investigator. We are building a community of people who refuse to let these stories fade into the concrete. Hit that subscribe button and join our ranks. Help us grow this circle of voices so we can bring more light to these forgotten halls. Now let's look at the evidence they didn't want you to see. The evidence isn't in the courtroom files anymore. It's in the daily log of the Florida Department of Corrections. Currently, Oneal is held within a high-security facility, likely under close management at Liberty Correctional Institution. This is a different kind of reality. In 2026, his life is a loop of nothingness. The lights hum to life at 5 a.m. No hope, no second chances, just the buzzing of neon against concrete, when the food is a tasteless fuel pushed through a metal slot in a steel door. Describe the concrete box, 4 walls, a bunk, and the constant, crushing silence of a man who realized too late that he is no longer the loudest person in the room. In prison, your voice doesn't matter. Only your compliance does. Stay with me, because as the years progress, the inside the walls reality becomes more about the systematic dismantling of a human identity. Because of the nature of Oneal's crimes, the brutalization of a child with special needs, his life inside is governed by a paradox. He is a man who craves a stage, yet he is forced into a state of permanent isolation for his own survival. The prison hierarchy has a very specific place for men like Ronnie Oneal, and it is at the very bottom. Even behind steel doors, where the prison hierarchy finds a way to communicate its disdain. He is a marked man without a mark, living in a constant state of cortisol-soaked fear. He must watch his back in the shower, in the yard, and even in his sleep. Every face in the corridor is a potential threat. Every shadow is a potential end. Imagine the 2,000th time he eats a tray of lukewarm soy loaf in silence. Imagine the 10,000th time he paces those same 6 steps. The sensory deprivation is a weapon the state uses to erode the ego. For a man as arrogant as Oneal, this silence is more painful than any physical blow. He is being unmade 1 minute at a time until there is nothing left but a biological shell. Now we move to the philosophical dilemma. Before we close this file, we must issue a no sympathy disclaimer. We are not here to defend Ronnie Oneal, unless we are here to analyze the mechanics of justice, the pain he inflicted, the terror Kenyatta Barron felt in her final moments, the lifelong scars on Ronnie IV, is the only true tragedy here. The prisoner is not the victim. He is the architect of his own tomb. But the question we must ask is this: Is life without the hope of parole a more civilized punishment, or is it a living death that is actually more cruel than the needle? Execution is a definitive act of closure for the state, but a living death is a lingering, expensive, and slow-motion erasure. It is the practice of keeping a man alive just long enough to ensure he feels every second of his irrelevance. Is it justice to keep a man like O'Neal in a box until 2070? Or is it a reflection of a society that has traded the gallows for a slow-moving, psychological meat grinder? So current legal updates for 2026 show that his final appeals have reached the end of the line. The Florida Supreme Court has remained unmoved by his claims of ineffective assistance of counsel, an ironic claim given that he was his own counsel. The walls are now his only reality. He is a man who wanted to be a legend, and instead he became a cautionary tale whispered in the dark corners of the Florida system. Let that sink in. We are witnessing the final chapters of a man who thought he could outshout the law. Now, the only thing that responds to him is the echo of his own voice in a room where nobody's listening. He is a ghost in the making, a reminder that the most brutal cage isn't made of bars, but of the time we have left to regret what we've done. The case of Ronnie Oneal is just one file in a very dark cabinet. In our next video, I'm opening the vault on a story even more chilling than this one, a case where a mother's love was twisted into a weapon of mass destruction. If you aren't subscribed, you're going to miss the update that changes the way you look at the justice system forever. Don't get left outside the walls. Join us, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.